Just as in the last segment in which we talked about skill set coaching, in this video, we're going to talk about mindset coaching and how to help employees improve their performance when we have identified a performance gap that relates to their thinking, not their skill. I think you will see some echoes from our discussion of the thought model in the previous course as we move forward, and you'll learn how to help your employees change their thinking. Remember, in order to know that we need to coach mindset gaps, we have to have asked that question and answered positively that, yes, my employee does know what to do, but they don't want to do it or they don't want to learn it, right? This is how we know that we have some mindset coaching to do. Because I want to take you all the way back to our first course when we talked about the thought model, right? We know that the way that we think about things drives how we feel, which drives how we act, which drives the results that we get. So if we're using that same example of someone whose goal was $50,000 in revenue and they generated 20, but in the past they've generated 50,000, 60,000, and 100,000, we know that they can generate $50,000 in revenue, but something is going on in their mind that is influencing their ability to achieve that goal. And in their mind, they believe it's real. They believe that the reason they aren't performing is real, right? So mindset coaching, from my perspective, I wouldn't necessarily tell an employee, I'm going to mindset coach you. Because most people who are kind of stuck in their thinking don't really think they're stuck in their thinking. They think it's an external problem. They think that something else is making it so that they can't achieve their goal. So keep that in mind, that we don't want to say to someone, you just need to change your thinking and you'll be successful. That may actually be true, but it isn't an effective approach with someone, okay? So how do we know this? The way that I know that someone needs mindset coaching is through their language, what they say when you talk to them. So the first thing we want to do when we've identified that someone does have the skill, but they're just choosing not to do what needs to be done to get the goals achieved, is we have to really talk to them. We have to ask them what's going on. Okay, so the goal was 50,000, you got 20,000, what's going on? And they'll have all sorts of reasons, right? Well, it's too hard. It's not a good time of year. The market is really affected. No one will call me back. I don't really know what to do. This feels overwhelming to me. This isn't a fair goal. Other people's goals are lower than mine. You'll start to hear language that you can interpret and understand as they're thinking. Remember that circumstances just exist, right? So if the circumstance is your goal is $50,000 in revenue. Now, what we do is we define that in our mind. Someone who hits that 50,000 in revenue probably has a thought like, cool, I'm excited to achieve this. Oh, this will be great to achieve this goal. I'm looking forward to celebrating when I achieve this goal. This goal is easy, right? Where someone else might look at that 50,000 and say, oh my gosh, that goal is impossible this time of year. I don't know what they were thinking. Who do they think I am? Honestly, right? So the way that someone thinks about a goal determines whether or not they achieve it. All right. So the first thing we have to do is really ask our employees, what are they thinking about when they think about this goal? And you've got to pay attention to what they say. We've got to really listen. You've got to listen to them and what they say, not evaluate them through your own perspective. Okay. And then the way that we help people is we help them notice what they're thinking and how that's impacting their results. So for example, have you noticed, employee, that you say to yourself a lot how impossible it is to hit this goal at this time of year? How do you think that's impacting how you feel every day to think that? And they might say, well, I feel really frustrated. Okay, and so when you're feeling frustrated and you're at work, how are you acting? And just be honest with yourself, right? Well, I think I'm unfocused. I'm probably not paying very good attention. Okay. And so when you're unfocused and you're not paying attention at work, what kind of result are you getting? Right? So what we want to do here is this mindset coaching is not about you infusing them with knowledge. mindset coaching is about you helping them meet themselves, really introducing them to how what they're thinking about is ultimately driving their own result. This is at the core of a personal accountability, right? If someone can really get that what they're thinking is driving their outcomes, that's where accountability occurs. Because then I can take full responsibility for what I'm achieving or not achieving, right? So what we want to do is help them really recognize their perspective and question them. I understand that you think the market is really influencing your ability. When you think that, how do you feel every day? I feel helpless. Oh, and when you feel helpless, how do you act at work? I don't do a lot, to be honest. I'm not as creative as I used to be. Okay. And so when you are acting like that, you're not doing a lot, you're not being creative, what kind of result are you getting? So we first have to give them an opportunity to really recognize their perspective and how it's influencing their results. And then we need to pull them back to what the truth is. The truth is you have a $50,000 goal and you have hit $50,000 4 times or more. That's the facts. Now, what's happening is you're telling yourself it's really difficult. Are you willing to reevaluate the assumptions you're making about this goal? Are you willing to have a new perspective about this goal? Are you willing to recognize that your current perspective is influencing your results? Because if you are, then let's come up with another way to think about this that feels better for you. Okay? That's how we coach mindset. That's how we connect people to what they're thinking and the results that they're getting. And that, like I said, that's a lot more of their work in terms of them really getting connected to their own thoughts and their own results rather than skills transfer, which is much more about you teaching, right? So just notice sort of the relationship here with and how the conversations go. One is more directive and you're pretty active in it. This one, mindset coaching, it's much more reflective. Because here's the thing, you cannot change someone else's mind. They have to do it. And if mindset is really at the heart of why someone is not performing, as frustrating as that is as a manager, the only person who can ultimately make that decision to change is them. You can hold them accountable to the performance. So here's the thing, right? Regardless of what you're thinking, you still have to hit this $50,000. So I want to help you get there. And I can see how a lot of the stuff you're telling yourself every day is influencing your ability to get there. But I want to be clear that $50,000 is the goal and we need to get there. I think you can get there by changing the way you're thinking about it, but you have to make that decision ultimately on your own. And that's tough as a manager because you can see the talent. These are the ones that you hear all the time. They're so talented. I know they can do this. They're just choosing not to. These are those people. You can see it in them. And they're making a choice every day not to do it. And that's tough to watch. So your role here is to help them kind of, like I said, introduce them to themselves, recognize how their thinking is influencing their outcomes, and ultimately help them come up with a new perspective and then hold them accountable to that. Don't let them slip back into sort of that negative thinking. Coach them through to the positive perspective. What does someone who's thinking they're going to be successful, what do they do every day? Versus the person who thinks they're going to fail, what do they do every day, right? That's how you work with them. And you keep reminding and refreshing their thinking and don't indulge a lot of their negative thinking. So that's mindset coaching. It's really understanding that the thought model is always at play. And when someone's not performing and they have the skill, it's because they are telling themselves things. They have thoughts in their mind that are influencing their ability to be productive and to achieve their goal. In summary of mindset coaching, let's remember a few key things. When we have a mindset gap, we know that the employee knows how to do what we're asking them to do, but for whatever reason, they're choosing not to. They have a lot of thoughts that are preventing them from moving forward to achieve the goal. And so that's when we use and apply the thought model, right? Circumstances lead to thoughts, trigger feelings, trigger actions, trigger results. Those are those key elements. And so the key here isn't for you as a coach to tell people what to do, but to help them understand that how they're thinking about the goal about the work is actually influencing the results that they get. So it's the ultimate in accountability because their performance in this case is their responsibility. There's very little as a manager that you can give them to help them improve. This is about employees identifying that I'm stuck in my thinking and that is directly impacting my ability to achieve results. The thought model is always working. We are always working with what runs through our mind. And so as a coach, if you can help your employees better recognize those thoughts that are not effective, you make a huge impact on performance.